Good morning, students. Yesterday we have started with the new topic, laws of motion, and we have revised whatever you have learned in 9th class, starting from Aristotle's fallacy, Galileo's activities, property of inertia, then Newton's first law, Newton's second law, and Newton's third law. Today we shall solve some of the problems based on Newton's second law, which are very important. So, in this topic, we are going to start from this, that is numerical problems of Newton's second law. Then we are going to deal with impulse. What is the concept of impulse? Impulsive force, and we will solve problems on impulsive force. And then we will start with law of conservation of momentum, law of conservation of linear momentum. So before that, let us solve some of the problems based on Newton's second law. The problem is in this way: a bullet of mass 0.04 kg moving with the speed of 90 meter per second, enters a wooden block, and it's a heavy wooden block. This is the heavy wooden block, and it is stopped after a distance of 60 centimeter. The stopping distance is 60 centimeter. It is stuck inside the wooden block by covering a length of 60 centimeter distance. What is the average resistive force exerted by the block on the bullet? So you are asked to find out what is the average resistive force. According to Newton's second law, yesterday we have revised, the force acting on a particle is product of mass and acceleration. Here the mass of the bullet is given. What is the resistive force exerted by the wooden block? So we have to calculate mass into acceleration, that gives us resistive force. So before that, we need to calculate what is acceleration. So first we will write what are the given things. Mass of the bullet 0.04 kg, and initial speed of the bullet u, the speed with which it is entering, 90 meters per second. Distance covered by the bullet inside the wooden block, s is given 60 centimeter. After a distance of 60 centimeters. So that is 0.6 meter. So we have to convert everything in SI units, kg, meter per second, and meter. Then, if we want to calculate force, we need to calculate acceleration. So how do you calculate acceleration? See, what happens when the bullet finally stops? Its final speed becomes 0. So we will write here final speed, if you take as v becomes 0. So final speed is 0, initial speed is 90 meter per second, distance covered is 0.6 meter. We assume the retardation of the bullet, it undergoes retardation. We assume retardation of the bullet inside a wooden block as uniform retardation, so that we can apply the equations of accelerated motion, equations of uniformly accelerated motion. So u, v and s is given. You are asked to find out a. So we can use third equation, v square minus u square is equal to 2as. v, u and s are given, so that we can calculate a. So if you use third equation, we get what is the value of acceleration. We have third equation, v square minus u square is equal to 2as. So we can calculate what is a. Therefore a is equal to v square minus u square divided by 2s. A is equal to v square minus u square divided by 2s. Substitute the values. V is 0, u is 90 meter per second. So I can write it as 90 into 90. 90 into 90 u square divided by 2 into distance 0.6. Now you can simplify this. So this becomes 2 ones are 2 45s are minus 45 into 90 divided by 0.6. 2 ones are 2 45s. So if you work it out, it comes out to be minus 45 into 900 divided by 6. So 6 ones are 6 150s are 16 15 6 are 90. Therefore 6 ones are 6 150s. So if you calculate this, thus we get acceleration A is equal to minus. So negative sign indicates the acceleration is negative, that is retardation. It undergoes retardation. 15 4s are 6, 15 5s are 75, carry 7. 15 4s are 60 plus 7, 67 and 0. So minus 6750 meter per second square is the retardation. Therefore, now we can apply Newton's second law. Using Newton's second law, we have F is equal to M into A. So we get force also negative. Since acceleration is negative, so force also is going to be negative. Therefore, M is 0.04 and acceleration is minus 6750. 6750. So if you calculate this, 4 5s are 20, carry 2, 4 7s are 28 plus 2, 30, carry 3, 4 6 are 24 plus 3, 27. So it becomes 2700 and the decimal will be 270.0. So this becomes minus 270 Newton. So immediately after calculation, you have to immediately write the SI in it. So resistive force. So since force is negative, so this implies it is the resistive force. He has asked what is the average resistive force? Why it is not simply called a resistive force? It is called average resistive force. The reason is we assumed the retardation inside the block to be uniform, but it may not be the case. Therefore, when it is a uniform retardation, then only we can apply this equation. Equation 1, equation 2, equation 3. V equal to U plus AT, S equal to UT plus half AT square, V square minus U square equal to 2AS. These equations are applicable if and only if the acceleration is uniform, acceleration is constant. So we assume the retardation to be constant and we calculated the force. Therefore, the force is not the constant force, it is a variable force. So we write it as average resistive force, thinking that it is uniform, but it may not be uniform. Therefore, we take it as average resistive force. I think it is quite clear. Previously also we have solved similar kind of problem. Only in this case we are multiplying the mass with acceleration to get the force. Now let us quickly solve the second problem. The second problem is like this. The motion of a particle of mass m, is described by displacement y is equal to ut plus half gt square. Is it not second equation? Y is equal to ut plus half gt square. Find the force acting on the particle. Here it is again second equation which describes the acceleration to be uniform. So just look at the equation, you will get the idea what is the value of acceleration. U is the initial velocity, T is the time taken, y is the displacement, and half constant, T is again time, G, see, G is the acceleration. So directly you can write force is equal to m into G, that's all. Force is equal to m into A, that is Newton's second law. So from the equation, the acceleration is G, therefore force becomes m into G. This is how, by just glancing into the equation, we will get the answer. But we will confirm it by the previous knowledge. When displacement is given, okay, let me write the displacement. Displacement y is equal to ut plus half gt square. Differentiating this with respect to time t. Differentiating with respect to time t. Differentiation, recall. dy by dt. We have learned motion in a straight line as well as motion in a plane. We have learned differentiation. So we are applying differentiation. ut. U is the initial velocity which is constant. U into dt by dt. Differentiation of this, u into dt by dt plus half g. Here acceleration is also constant, g is constant. d by dt of t square. So I have just kept the constant outside and taken the differential coefficient to the variable. The variable here is t and another variable is displacement. Y and t are the variables. So y is a function of t. Okay. Now differentiation of t with respect to time t gives us 1. Therefore it becomes u into 1. That is u into 1 becomes u plus half into g into differentiation of t square. Recall that equation which we got it. Differentiation of x raised to n divided by d by dx of x raised to n gives us n into x raised to n minus 1. This is the standard formula. Standard formula you should remember throughout year. Reason is you are learning differentiation in mathematics, that too in 12th standard. Therefore you are supposed to remember this formula. And using this formula, it is a t raised to 2. Differentiation of t raised to 2. So n is 2 here. So 2 into t raised to 2 minus 1. So it becomes 2 into 2 t raised to 2 minus 1. So 2 cancels. Thus we get u plus t raised to 2 minus 1 is t. Therefore u plus g. This becomes dy by dt. And what is dy by dt? Rate of change of displacement. Rate of change of displacement is nothing but velocity. Now we want acceleration. See here. When we calculate acceleration, then only we can multiply mass with acceleration to get a force. Force is equal to mass into acceleration according to Newton's second law. So we need to calculate acceleration. So again differentiate. Differentiating again with respect to time t. With respect to time t. So we get dv by dt. dv by dt is nothing but acceleration. That's equal to differentiation of u. U is a constant. Initial speed is constant. So differentiation of constant becomes 0 plus differentiation of gt. Again g is constant. G into dt by dt. So again you will get 1. G into dt by dt gives us 1. Therefore the acceleration becomes g. Therefore a is equal to g. Thus according to Newton's second law, force on the particle F is equal to m into a. This is the standard equation. So a is g. Therefore it becomes m into g. Thus the problem becomes very simple. So if you look at the equation itself, immediately it should flash in your mind. That is, acceleration is g, which is constant. So mass is m. So m into acceleration gives us force, m into g. If you do not go through this, still then you can get the answer. So in that way you have to think and get the result. Okay, quickly look into another different type of problem. A body of mass 5 kg is acted upon by two perpendicular forces. This is a body of mass 5 kg. This is acted upon by two forces, F1 of 8 Newton in this direction and another perpendicular force F2 equal to 6 Newton in this perpendicular direction. Give the magnitude and direction of the acceleration of the body. Give the magnitude and direction of the acceleration of the body. In this case, when two forces are acting on a single body in different directions, first we have to find out resultant force. Because forces are the vectors, as you know, forces are vector quantities. So first we have to find out resultant force. So if you just draw the vector diagram, this becomes the rectangle. So draw the parallel vectors, F2 parallel vector and F1 parallel vector. If you construct a rectangle, it's going to be a rectangle, then just join the diagonal. So this becomes the resultant force, which is equal to F1 plus F2 vectors. Vector F1 plus vector F2, as we know earlier. This is the direction theta that we are supposed to calculate. Before that, we need to calculate what is the magnitude of force F. Once we get the magnitude of resultant force F, then we can calculate what is the acceleration by using Newton's second law. Okay. So when you look at this, is it not forming a right angle triangle? So this becomes the hypotenuse of the right angle triangle. Since it is a right angle triangle, vector F, resultant F becomes the hypotenuse. So square of the hypotenuse is equal to sum of the squares of the other two sides. So I can write directly resultant force. Magnitude of resultant force. I am writing first. Magnitude of resultant force. Magnitude of resultant force. F is equal to square root of F1 square plus F2 square. Simple. 8 square becomes 64 and F2 is 6. 6 square becomes 36. So square root of 64 plus 36. So thus magnitude of force F becomes square root of 100. Very simple. 10 Newton. So this is the magnitude. Then you can calculate what is the acceleration. Therefore, using Newton's second law, F equal to M into A. You see, it is a vector form of Newton's second law. Vector F is equal to vector F is equal to M into vector A. The acceleration direction of the acceleration is same as the direction of force. So once we find out force, we got 10 Newton. Acceleration is also in the same direction as that of the force, according to Newton's second law. Therefore, magnitude of acceleration I will write now is equal to magnitude of force divided by mass. Magnitude of acceleration is equal to magnitude of force by mass. Force is 10, mass is 2 kg. I think 5 kg. Okay. Mass is 5 kg plus acceleration magnitude becomes 2 meter per second square. Now first part is over, magnitude is calculated. Second part, calculation of direction. So direction of A is same as direction of resultant vector F. Is same as direction of resultant vector F. Therefore, directly I can find out tan theta. Tan theta is equal to, you see, F2 by F1. Magnitude of F2 by magnitude of F1. So that becomes 6 by 8. 6 by 8, that becomes 2 3s are 2 4s are 3 by 4. So therefore theta is equal to tan inverse of 3 by 4. 3 by 4 is nothing but 0.75. 3 by 4 is nothing but 0.75. So tan inverse of 0.75. If you refer the table, tan inverse of 0.75 comes out to be about 36.8 degree. 36.8 degree with respect to F1. With respect to vector F1. So this is how we need to solve such problems. Okay. Now I am giving you homework. Solve these three problems. 1, 2, 3. These first two problems are just like the previous problems which I have solved. Just like the previous problem which I have solved using equations of uniformly accelerated motion. You try with second equation or third equation or first equation, solve these two. And the last one, look at this last one. Last one is again similar problem wherein here there are two forces. F1 and F2 are the two forces acting in opposite directions, not perpendicular to each other. They are acting in the same line but in the opposite directions. So if a block of mass 2 kg is acted upon by two forces in the opposite direction as shown here in the diagram with forces F1 and F2, F1 value is given 20 Newton. If the block undergoes acceleration of 1 meter per second square, if the block undergoes acceleration of 1 meter per second square along the direction of F1, find the value of F2. Find the value of F2. I think you can solve this problem. This problem is easier than the problem which I have solved. I think you will do it and let me know the answers. You can answer me to my phone number or you can discuss in the class WhatsApp group 11th B, 11th A, 11th C WhatsApp group. You can discuss in the class so that I will let you know the answer. Okay, otherwise you can directly solve the problem and put the photo in my phone number, WhatsApp number I have already given. Now we will discuss very important concept, that is impulse. Okay, there are certain important types of forces in the nature which act for a short duration of time. When such forces act for a short duration of time, they will have a large impact. For example, if you take a glass or a cup, just if you leave it, when it falls from a certain height, say about 1 meter or 2 meters, immediately when it touches the ground, it breaks into pieces. So the cup or the glass comes into contact with the floor for a very short duration of time, but impact of that force on the glass is such that it is broken into pieces. So such a force which acts for a short duration of time leading to impact, it is called as impulsive force. It is called as impulsive force. And this impulsive force, when it acts on a particular body, leads to change in momentum. For example, if you take a ball and hit it on the wall, when you throw it on the wall, when you throw a ball on the wall, suddenly the ball gets rebounded back. There on the ball is there for a very short duration of time. It's there for a very short duration of time. The collision time of the ball with the wall is very short. But what happens? Immediately the ball bounces back. There is a change in direction of the velocity, exactly in the opposite direction. So change in the velocity leads to change in momentum also. Mass into velocity gives us momentum. So when you hit the ball on the wall, sudden change of momentum in the exact opposite direction takes place. This change in momentum of the ball is due to the impulsive force exerted by the wall, which acts for a very short duration of time. So such an impact is called as impulse. So first we will define what is impulse. impulse. When a force acts on a body for a short duration, it leads to finite change in momentum. Change in momentum of the body. This change in momentum of the body itself is due to the force and the time duration. So, the product of force and time, the product of force and time gives us what is known as impulse. So, impulse is defined as the product of force and time. But you see, force and time are very difficult to measure. The product of force and time duration is also very short. We don't know how much is the force exerted. So, product of force and time is actually called as impulse. But how do we calculate? It leads to change in momentum. So, that is what we calculate as change in momentum. Change in momentum. So, in this case, the force which is acting for a short duration of time, this force is called impulsive force. This force is called as impulsive force. Please remember, impulsive force is the force, whereas impulse is not force. Impulse is the product of impulsive force and the time. The product of force and the time gives us impulse, whereas the force which acts for a very short duration of time, leading to large impact, it is called as impulsive force. Impulsive force. When a batsman hits the ball, see, when the batsman hits the ball and the bat are there in a very short duration of time. But you see the impact. The batsman may hit the ball exactly in the opposite direction of the bowler. It may enter into boundary. Similarly, when the batsman just glances the ball, if the ball is off swing, going away from the batsman, if the batsman just glances the ball, just shows the face of the bat for a very short duration of time, sometimes the ball goes into 6 in the slip, it enters into the 6, it enters into the boundary, sometimes into the gallery. See, that is the impact of impulsive force. So that force multiplied by that short duration of time is called as impulse. So, which can be measured in terms of change in momentum. This is evident from Newton's second law. We know that force is equal to change in momentum by time taken, or you can write it as dP by dt. So, change in momentum. Therefore, force into time, force into small time taken. This gives us impulse. This gives us impulse. This is equal to change in momentum. So, thus, by calculating change in momentum, we can calculate impulse. So, if change in momentum, if you write it as initial velocity as u and final velocity as v, if mass of the object is m, then change in momentum can be written as mv minus mu, where mv is the final momentum and mu is the initial momentum. Final momentum minus initial momentum, final momentum minus initial momentum actually gives us change in momentum, which is calculated as mv minus mu. So equation becomes very simple. Then you can write what is its SI unit. SI unit of impulse. You see, it's very simple. Force is measured in Newton and time is measured in second. So Newton second is the SI unit of impulse, which is also calculated as change in momentum. You know, momentum is having the SI unit of mass and having the SI unit of velocity. It is also equal to kg meter per second. So Newton per second is also equal to kg meter per second. So this helps us to even find out its dimension. What is dimension of impulse? Dimension equation of impulse. You can straight away write from this base units. It is having the dimension of mass, dimension of length, and dimension of time, t raised to minus 1. So thus this becomes the dimension of impulse. So I have written dimension of impulse as well as dimension of impulse as well as SI unit of impulse. So once you know the concept of impulse very clearly, then we will be able to solve the problems, very interesting problems, that we shall do tomorrow. So tomorrow, the next session, we will discuss about the numerical problems on impulse, very important, because we are going to deal calculation of impulse as a change in momentum. You see, it is a vector quantity. See here, it is again a vector quantity. Everywhere we need to write with the vector notation, mv minus mu. So what is the meaning of vector notations? You will come to know clearly once you solve the problems on this. Then we will learn about law of conservation of linear momentum. So please solve these problems and we will discuss in the next session. Thank you. Have a nice day.